Chapter 17. Attila had done his job well. Not only had he counterfeited those badges, but he'd managed to sneak into a supply closet and procure 2 of the biolab uniforms. They actually fit well too. "The deal is this," said Machiko Noguchi, as they strode past the open outer gates of the factory, past security operatives, the setting sun of Norn at their backs, the brisk, cool smell of evening settling down on the still lushness of this cultivated frontier settlement. "We get caught inside the perimeter, we tell them we're authorized by Evanston. And if we make it through to the other part, but get caught then, we run. We go back to the barracks and grab beer cans. I don't want to involve Ned in this actual operation, but I don't feel bad having him back us up. I suggest that we not get caught, and most certainly not use weapons. I like to have one on hand if possible. They let me wear one here, and it put me in good stead with that bug this morning." Attila had prepared tiny stasis generators to cancel out any weapon detection device, and again Machiko was impressed and grateful for his varied talents hidden in that plain-looking shell. For all her martial arts abilities, Machiko felt far more comfortable with a sidearm. The news that she'd be able to wear one on this mission was certainly welcome. They walked past the posted guard with just a flash of their fake IDs. Security officers were not as numerous as Machiko had expected. Much of the security was automated. Shifts were apparently changing, and stragglers from the mid-shift were just making their way home. They appeared to be normal workers, looking forward to dinner and a beer. The shift that they were infiltrating, on the other hand, had far fewer workers, who were clearly far less industrious. The few people they encountered did not seem at all upset about the pair of new employees in their ranks. The departments in the biolab were diverse, enough that they could probably assume Machiko and Attila were headed for sections other than theirs. And of course, they were totally correct. Attila had briefed her on the layout of the biofactory in descriptive enough terms that Machiko was able to wend her way knowledgeably through it, acting as though she had a definite mission, not goggling around like the first time as she was. Nonetheless, she allowed Attila to lead slightly and used her peripheral vision to take notes of the stations and activity around her. Tanks. There were tanks of stainless steel and glass, connected by tubing all around, with conduits and flanges and wheels. There were lab stations and racks of chemicals and equipment, the usual panoply of functioning scientific research and production. The smell of flame and harsh elements clung to the air, wafting in currents of warm and cold. Wisps of steam and frost escaped from doors and hatches, opening and closing, and altogether the effect was of some well-scrubbed, sterile, satanic kitchen. Walking by one of the glass-enclosed tanks, Machiko caught a glimpse of something through the glass panelling, something caught in milky liquid. A half-formed beast with great claws and sharp teeth, slowly forming in a nutrient bath. A lion? Some alien critter? A hunter being born for hunting? Hard to say, but it certainly was pretty much as Evanston had described it, at least so far. "There's a whole other wing over there," whispered Attila, discreetly pointing towards the north. "Devoted to cages, many of them empty so far." "The beasts to be set free and hunted?" "Precisely. Nothing here to cause alarm to my perspective," she said, as they went to a drink dispenser and pretended to fish for credit vouchers. "That's just it. According to my data catalogue, these vast rooms have got everything they need for a fully functioning biolab factory." So much of the operations of such are patented secrets and usually kept secreted away. However, they're out here for all to see. Which means, think about it. It didn't take long. Which means, what the hell have they got locked away if they're allowing most people to see all of this? Exactly. She looked around again. She heard the murmurings and burblings of bubbling beakers, and slurpings and drippings of liquid, the tapping of retreating footsteps. It all smelled mysterious and acrid, like the entranceway to some chemical amusement park ride. Only they had no ticket for the next part. So, what now? Down this hallway here. They waited until there was no one around. This time, there was no pretense of who was leading and who was following. Attila went first. They moved down a corridor that eventually bent to the south. Doors lined either side. "Storage rooms," Attila explained. open and innocuous, as far as I can tell. The hallway was totally deserted. This, though, was what I was telling you about, down here at the end of the hall. Another slant to the hall, and they were there. Machiko was taken aback. At the end of the hall was a round, vault-like door of hard, shiny alloy. It was more than apparently extremely locked. What? Is this the gold supply here? Looks like it, doesn't it? What do your sensors perceive? It's an alloy that they can't get past. But you think we can pick this lock? Oh, yes. It's an electronic locking device, and I made sure to bring a probe. He held up a long metal device. Looks like a coat hanger. I'm sure it could be used as such. In any case, by inserting it into this aperture here, he did just that. I can change polarities and reroute electrical flows in such a way as to cancel out the necessity for codes and thus gain access. In other words, we can get through. Precisely. She looked around. Nobody coming? No. Problem is, there could be someone inside. True. However, shifts are changing, and an entry would be presumed to be authorized. We can take a quick look. I can store data through visual and auditory means, as well as my usual sensory panoply. Thus we can nip in and then duck out, without causing any undue notice. Sounds good to me. She was happy there wasn't much security there, but then again, why should there be? It wasn't as though any intelligence agency was necessary in Livermore land. It was much too far removed from anything. The security forces seemed more interested in their war recreations than in actually patrolling the colony. Evanston's people must have reasoned that these simple precautions would do. For Machiko, they would have done quite nicely. However, they hadn't reckoned on having a talented android picking their locks. Attila did his stuff, slipping the device in. Machiko heard a few clicks and whirs, and then watched Attila's concerned expression change to one of relief. There we go. That should be it. He stood and pulled a latch. The door opened. Machiko leaped to action, helping Attila pull the hatchway open with the minimum of noise. It eased back, as though it had just been oiled. Machiko peered into the next room. It was a large chamber that stretched off into the distance. Along its upper sides were catwalks and pulleys and waldos. Racks of laboratory equipment hung below these. The lighting was quite low, the dominant colours being deep reds and lambent yellows. Burblings. The acrid smell was even heavier here, and there was a new scent to the air, something dreadful, something familiar, and yet Machiko could not precisely place it. In the distance was the quiet sound of voices, yet this part of the long chamber seemed absolutely deserted. Ahead of them were the familiar tanks, only these seemed noticeably larger. From the two intruders' angle, however, there seemed to be no viewpoints into the contents. Machiko quietly pointed this out. Could be that what they're brewing in there, they don't want us to know about? I was thinking the exact same thing. Just a moment here. Attila placed a small piece of metal between the door and door jamb. This way we can exit quickly, I think, which may prove most fortuitous. Machiko was in a hurry, but she took the precaution of moving as quietly and warily as possible as they made their way around the tank. There was a porthole on the other side, and she was able to peer through the murky liquid and into the contents. Oh my God, Machiko said, and though she was not particularly religious, it was as close to a prayer as she ever got.